I'm so excited for today's topic. It's something that I love talking about. And that is prosperity, entrepreneurship, and building wealth. Obtaining wealth and financial freedom is a really important part of your spiritual journey here on earth. Money is the currency, the energy by which you'll be able to purchase those experiences necessary and wanted to enhance your earth journey. As some of you may or may not know, about 3 years ago I was very ill. I was on the edge of a nervous breakdown, estranged from my family. My mother had died a couple years before. My job was at risk, I wasn't working, and I was pretty much looking at possibly becoming homeless. There is nothing like being completely physically incapacitated and not having worked for a couple of years to really just make you feel like there's nothing left for you. And the idea of starting from square one can be really terrifying. But what happened for me was I ended up, because I had to spend so much time at home with my illness, I was watching YouTube videos on health, raw foods, alternative healing, and I started to notice that a lot of these people that were healthy and regaining their health and becoming conscious were building wealth for themselves and pursuing entrepreneurship. And I looked at that and I was like, hey, I could do that too. In this video, I'm going to talk about the basics of the metaphysics behind building wealth. This is a video that could change your life. I've got some free tips as well as some very specific things that I did that you can do to get started as an online entrepreneur today. It's a combination of my ideas as well as some ideas about the mastery of money that I picked up from the late, great Stuart Wilde. His video on the mastery of money was a huge eye-opener for me. It was filmed back in the day. It's not very good quality technology-wise, but it is powerful piece of information. I'm gonna have the video linked below here as well. In this video, I'm going to sum up the most important points that you need to know when you're looking to pursue your financial freedom. Way back in the day, it was important to have people who were willing to do work for the elite, or the wealthy, or the royalty of the time. So the people who did not have wealth began to get indoctrinated by the people who did in order to keep them doing work for those people and not rising to the same level. And that's where a lot of the negative ideas about money started that have now fully integrated into a lot of people's minds. The idea was to feed the people the concept that you work hard now, and then when you die, you go to heaven and you can have anything you want. And that's a big part of the problem. A lot of people bought into the idea that you need to work hard and suffer in this life so that you can enjoy the afterlife. If you're like me, you want your power now, not after you die and go to heaven. But the system depends on people believing and buying into that.
If we look into the history of where public schools started in North America, we find some very interesting things. Public school and mandatory public school came about during a time when it was necessary to start training people to be factory workers. It was also a time during which the government was interested in getting women into the workforce and out of the family home. And a great way of doing that is making it mandatory that the children were out of the house from 9 to 5, like a normal job, so that the mother could also be in the workforce, creating tax dollars for the government. It's interesting when you look into the actual history of who was really behind the women's lib movement during that time. You'll find it very interesting to see where the funding for all of the whole women's lib propaganda came from. It was from the government. Back then, there were only certain people who realized that if you had children from a certain age, that you could mold their minds, you could tame them into something docile and very puppet-like, programmable. It's kind of creepy when you think about public school. It teaches children to get up and be productive from 9 to 5, respond to a bell ringing, blindly obey authority, The most erroneous assumption is to the effect that the aim of public education is to fill the young of the species with knowledge and awaken their intelligence, and so make them fit to discharge the duties of citizenship in an enlightened and independent manner. Nothing could be further from the truth. The aim of public education is not to spread enlightenment at all. It is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed and train a standardized citizenry, to put down dissent and originality. That is its aim. Schools are a child's first impression of society. And when you think about those facts and how so many people are being molded at such a young age to have these beliefs and these behaviors, and then you look around and see people who are essentially drones, you really start to understand that to break out of that mindset, you have to be very willful. Education should aim at destroying free will, so that after pupils are thus schooled, they will be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as their schoolmasters would have wished. Bertrand Russell.
Win-lose mentality is a huge part of the problems we have on the planet right now, where people think, I have to get mine, or I have to get that because there's not enough, and if I don't get it, someone will take it from me, comes from a part of your brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is the lizard part of your brain, or the more animal instinct part of your brain. And its main concern is reproduction and survival. And a lot of people are brought up into that paradigm. It also really can get triggered by stress, which a lot of us go through on a daily basis. And living from the amygdala part of your brain is something that can just come along with living in the matrix if you're not being conscious in your life and actively working to fight against that programming. There is actually an infinite amount of wealth and money and energy available to us on this planet. There is enough money for every person on this planet to be a millionaire. There is money just sitting around that is never claimed. There are people who have tons and tons of money that they just hoard and never do anything with and die and nothing happens to it. Stuart Wilde says, money is like manure. You pile it all in one place and it stinks. But if you spread it around, things grow. Did you know that between the ages of 0 and 6 years of age, your brain is in almost a hypnotic state? Most of us have these programs running in our consciousness and our minds that we picked up in childhood. When you first ask your parents for something and they tell you they can't afford it and tell you, do you think money grows on trees? These are the kind of messages and the way that you start to understand money and finances for the rest of your life.
My mother was very bitter about people who seemed to be doing better than she did, although she didn't do anything to help herself. She was on welfare, a single mother of 3 children, and she used to try to make me feel guilty for associating with anybody who she viewed as being more privileged than we were. So she would say things to me like, oh yeah, you're going to go have pizza now with your rich friends, because to her, being able to order pizza meant that you were rich. And, she was really bitter about that. It was strange. Before I knew about businesses or entrepreneurship or starting anything, I was a really wily little kid, and I was a little entrepreneur from a very early age. I was very ambitious. I would start businesses. I had started a snow shoveling business where I was making $20 a driveway. I started a babysitter's club where I brought on a bunch of girls, and I told them that they would do the babysitting and I would organize it and I'd get a cut from that, and we went door to door in the neighborhood selling it. When my mother found out about any of my entrepreneurial ventures, she would first of all forcibly take my money, so steal my money from me, force me to give it to her. And then she would always tell me I couldn't do it. And she would say, no, you can't do that. And you have to stop doing that. No, you're not allowed to do that anymore. And I would ask why, and she would have no answer. She would just sit there in a cloud of smoke and depression like she did every single day, all day long, and not have an answer for me. And I was always so infuriated by that. I also had, wishes to be a veterinarian. And I don't know how I figured this out myself, but I thought, you know what? There's a vet clinic nearby. Let me go volunteer there and start getting some experience. That would have been great on a resume and a college to get into, give me an idea of what it's like to work there. I went for a couple of shifts, and then one day I was leaving the house and she goes, you can't go. And I just said, like, why can't you? Just can't. No answer. And looking back, at the time you trust that it's your mom and you trust that, she has her best interest in mind, but my mother was a very jealous person of other people. And I do think the fact that I was so entrepreneurial and ambitious in the face of her collecting welfare checks and sitting in the house smoking all day, I think that just made her furious. Now, you might not have as extreme of a story as I do in that regard, but it's really important to look into that. Sometimes, every once in a while, I get really, really down. I get into a slump where I just can't bring myself to do anything. I can't bring myself to do any of my work, to contact clients, to do anything, and I just fall into that. And that is part of that conditioning that I have. That's my inner mother keeping me down. She's been passed away for years now, and that influence is still there. The sooner you become aware of these types of things, the better, and that way you can really start to get to the source of them, which is actually in the subconscious mind. I've got some great videos linked at the end of this video which can help you get into that, and that's how you can really start to affect change in your life.
Do you remember in biology class in high school? I don't know about you guys, but I was a big biology nerd. I still am. I love sciences and I love biology. Do you remember hearing about something called a selectively permeable cell? Basically what it is a cell with a membrane that lets certain things in and certain things out. You need to consider that your energy field that affects your mind, your consciousness, and directs your entire life is like a selectively permeable cell. And surrounding that energy field are wonderful, positive, beautiful things, experiences, people, as well as negative, harmful, hurtful people and experiences and things. And depending on where your energy is and where your thoughts are, that directs what comes in and what comes to you. Because here in the physical reality, we're always looking for evidence of what we believe. So if you believe that you're not a good person and you're not valuable, you're going to attract jobs that suck. I know myself, I've had some really sucky jobs. I've had some really good jobs that just sucked because they weren't right for me. You'll attract, people who will take advantage of you, who will not approve of you, who will let you down or betray you. And this is the most important area to consider when looking to build wealth and get into entrepreneurship, are your subconscious beliefs. Because your current desire, what you think you want, is like you being at the captain of a ship and you're steering the ship through the water and you think you're taking yourself one way, but your subconscious mind is the current of the water, and that's determining exactly where you're going no matter what you're doing up on the surface. One thing I will drill home in all of my videos is that it's very hard to consciously interpret your behavior with the brain and level of consciousness that's currently creating it. It's very important to get a professional outside opinion and support for yourself when you're really looking at changing things in your life. I would actually recommend to any entrepreneur that their very first investment should be in therapy sessions. So this isn't something that I would tell people, you can just sit there and think positive thoughts and read affirmations and it comes true. It actually works a lot deeper than that. And you really need to get over your childhood issues in order to get over that hump if you keep finding yourself self-sabotaging. I've had friends who are big time self-sabotagers. I've been guilty of it at times. You know, not valuing yourself enough to charge enough for what you're doing, being afraid to market yourself and put yourself out there. Those things are really important, and if you don't have the confidence because of some things from your childhood that are holding you back, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Anyway, when I made that decision, it was like a switch came on, and it was like an endless money switch. I remember my partner and I came back from vacation, and I was thinking, wow, we just spent like a ton of money, now what? And I was just thinking, okay, well, let's see how this plays out. We get home, open the mailbox. There's a ton of envelopes in there for us from the internet. We both have internet presences. I've only really started to get into online entrepreneurship this past year, and it has been avalanching me with positivity. And then like a couple days later, I literally have clients knocking down my door to give me money. And that's when I was just sitting there realizing money is delivering itself to my front doorstep. How did this happen? Like, it's working. This is great. I actually now have multiple income streams doing exactly what I want to do. And because I think it's so important to the spiritual development and uplifting of everyone on this planet, I am sharing everything that I know. Did you know that if you know 1% more about a topic than most other people, you're an expert on the internet? There are billions of people coming online right now that want to learn stuff. Take something that you love, bring together what skills, creativity, and knowledge you have, and figure out a way to transfer it to them. People want to know, and they want your help. So that's where the next part comes in. Putting yourself out there. Really important. In this day and age, it is so easy to get started developing yourself as a brand or finding ways to become an expert online. YouTube is an amazing platform for that, I've found. Another thing to keep in mind is you need to be organized. One of the streams of income I have that developed just from starting YouTube videos was I started getting approached by other entrepreneurs, internet marketers, and small businesses who wanted to create videos for YouTube and weren't sure where to start. There were people who had seen my YouTube videos through word of mouth, and that's how that income stream and career started for me. That's how I became a YouTube video producer and internet marketing creator. But what happened was I had these people coming to me, and I was just kind of like, sure, yeah, let's do that. And I hadn't thought about it. I hadn't nothing set up. I didn't know what to do. So I sat down and I opened a simple Word document. I opened it up. I put the services that I provide. I came up with some prices. I listed them in there. I created business cards on a free business card website. Eventually I got some paid ones. And I looked up a document online, a free invoice document, so that I could build them and have it look professional. And bam, I was ready. I was getting requests from people for life coaching, and that's when I realized, again, I had nothing to offer when people showed up asking. You can be a life coach to anyone, anywhere in this world with Skype or by phone. So that's when I had to realize, okay, let me set up a Skype account, let me get PayPal going so I can get paid online. And so when these people came to me again in the future, I was ready and prepared and organized, and I had something to offer. So here are the main points that we've gone over so far, and the key things for you to remember. Work on your consciousness, your subconscious thoughts, healing your childhood trauma, and changing your ideas about wealth and money. Put yourself out there. Love and serve your customers. Because they're not the annoying kind that you get when you work in retail anymore. They're people who are drawn and attracted to you for whatever energy or information you're putting out there. And it's so easy to be very grateful for that. Finally, remember to be organized. Have some type of system, forms, websites, whatever you need set up so when people start coming to you, you've got something to offer them. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.